In this video, we are going to apply Pythagorean identity to simplify an expression. Before we begin, let's briefly discuss Pythagorean identity. Here we have a unit circle. It gets its name from its 1 unit radius. Within this circle, we have a right triangle in which the hypotenuse is the radius of the circle and is therefore equal to 1 unit. Point A is on the circle. Point B is at the origin of our graph. And point C is on the x-axis, directly below point A. Let's call this side A, this side B, and the hypotenuse side C. The x-coordinate of point A is equal to the length of side A. The y-coordinate is equal to the length of side B. Now let's consider the trigonometric ratios. By definition, the cosine is angle theta is equal to the adjacent side over the hypotenuse. So side A over 1 is equal to A. The sine of theta is equal to the opposite side over the hypotenuse, which is side B over 1, which is also equal to B. And last, there is tangent, which is opposite side over adjacent side, and for angle theta is equal to B over A. Now let's review the Pythagorean theorem in a right triangle. A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Let's apply what we learned regarding the trigonometric ratios above. Since we know that side A is equal to the cosine of theta and side B is equal to the sine of theta, we can substitute cosine for A, sine for B, and we know our hypotenuse C is equal to the radius 1. Our formula looks like this. Cosine squared of theta plus sine squared of theta equals 1 squared, which simplifies to cosine squared of theta plus sine squared of theta equals 1. This is the main Pythagorean identity, which means we can algebraically manipulate to help us simplify expressions. It is also worth noting that when we substitute sine for B and cosine for A, tangent is equal to sine over cosine. Okay, let's use this information to simplify a few expressions. We are given negative sine squared of theta minus cosine squared of theta. Let's factor out the negative. That would look like this. Negative 1 times sine squared of theta plus cosine squared of theta, which is the same thing as negative 1 times 1. Which simplifies to negative 1. Now, 1 minus sine squared of theta times cosine squared of theta. 1 minus sine squared of theta is equivalent to cosine squared of theta. Now we know that cosine squared of theta times cosine squared of theta. This would simplify to cosine to the power of 4 of theta. Lastly, we are given sine squared of theta over 1 minus sine squared of theta. We know that 1 minus sine squared of theta is equal to cosine of squared of theta. So we can rewrite our expression. Sine squared of theta over cosine squared of theta, which is the same as sine of theta over cosine of theta squared, which simplifies to tangent squared of theta.